Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending this afternoon's session, which addresses what the hotel landscape of the future will look like. We're going to consider some current and upcoming trends, from new hotel and design concepts to how technology will transform the guest experience. Today, we're really lucky. We've got a really stellar lineup of panelists from some of the world's leading hotel groups and design and technology companies. They are all highly experienced experts in their fields, so let me introduce you to them. So here, immediately on my left, we have Olivier Harniche, who's the CEO of Emaar Hospitality Group. Olivier has more than 30 years of international hospitality management experience. And at Emaar, he's responsible for 11 operational hotels, 3 service residences in Dubai, and a pipeline of more than 30 new projects. He's also spearheading a digital transformation strategy that he believes will set new benchmarks for innovation in the hospitality industry. Please welcome Olivier for me. Big round of applause, come on. Sitting next to him, we have John Rogers, Senior Vice President, Brand and Franchise Operations for Europe, the Middle East and Africa at Hilton. John's got more than 16 years of hospitality industry experience and is responsible for the management of Hilton's brands in the region. With the hotel group introducing new brands in the Middle East soon and spearheading new tech-driven guest experience initiatives, he's got plenty to talk about today too. Come on, give John another big hand. Thank you. And then in the middle here, we have Richard Wiegmann, who's Managing Director, Chief Commercial Officer for Europe, Middle East and Africa for Sabre Hospitality Solutions. Richard is responsible for the leadership and growth of Sabre across this region. The company is a leader in distribution, operations, retailing, guest experience, and enterprise intelligence solutions. And today, Richard is really keen to tell us about how emerging technologies will impact the hospitality industry. He says that today's guests expect a flawless journey, and hotels and IT vendors must therefore improve their digital marketing and distribution solutions. Have we got another big hand? Don't run out of claps. And then next to him, we have Guido de Wild, who's Chief Operating Officer, Middle East for Marriott International. Guido has more than 30 years of international experience in the hotel industry. He's responsible for the operations of Marriott's properties in the Middle East, which includes more than 105 operational hotels and 77 in the pipeline. Guido says that in today's world, brands and brand differentiation are important, and technology is key to personalisation. Identifying the traveller of the future and what they want will be essential to survival, he believes. Please give Guido a round of applause.
Thank you.
And last, but certainly not least, we have Tom Skyring, who's the Design Director at Wilson Associates. Tom is an accomplished interior designer with more than 30 years of experience, 15 of which saw him run his own studio specialising in restaurant and bar design. He has designed F&B concepts for some of the world's leading hotel companies, and his distinctive design style is recognised in award-winning restaurants around the world. He's a firm believer that the devil is in the detail. And so Tom's going to tell us how hotel firms need to change their mindset about how they use their space. It's not only about revenue, but guest satisfaction, he says. Please give Tom a big hand. Thank you. So let's kick off the discussion. I'm going to come and sit down here now. So first of all, I think it's really important to talk about what we believe are the big picture, the top line trends that are impacting the hotel industry today. And also, if there's anything that's specific to the Middle East. So I think I'm going to ask Olivier to kick off. What do you believe, in a nutshell, are the biggest trends that are kind of defining the industry today?
What we see is that the needs of the travelers are changing, and we see that very well among the millennial travelers. However, we don't only look at millennials. We look at the millennial mindset, and there's a focus on authenticity. They're looking for localized products, right? Hotels that are linked to their very locality. They're looking for unscripted services, and they're also looking for convenience. And that is a key element for us because, as you mentioned earlier, we look a lot at technology at Ima Hospitality. We're a small group, so we can really introduce technology in our hotels it's, by the way, 12 hotels as of last week because we opened a Rove Hotel.
Since I wrote that then.
Exactly.
12 hotels.
Technology really helps make the guest experience seamless, right? Reduce friction points, which is an ugly word, but what are friction points? Friction points are moments when a guest does the same activity on and on again, or has a waiting time which can be reduced, or programs a piece of equipment again and again, right? These things can be facilitated by technology. But one point I always insist on is that technology does not replace people. The hotel business is a people's business, so I don't see hotels being run by robots in the future. I mean, this might be a niche market, but the companies that will win, and this is our ambition as Ima Hospitality, are the companies that will best marry the power of technology with the warmth of human service.
So technology to enhance the customer service rather than replace that face-to-face, yeah. Now, interesting you should mention robots. John, Hilton does have robots. How does that work?
Well, let's try and ground that. So what we have been doing is we did have quite a good look at how artificial intelligence might be used in the hotel space. I think AI will kind of transform everyday life over the next 50 years. But the reality is, Olivier says, robots are not going to replace people anytime soon, if ever. And I would probably say if ever. I mean, people are uniquely good at interacting and creating emotional connections with other people. And hospitality, which is the business we're in, certainly is all about creating emotional connections with people. And I think it'll be a very long time before robots can do that. But, we're seeing a lot more automation in our business. We as hoteliers need to have a good understanding of how technology will transform our business, and as a representative of one of the big organizations, clearly staying ahead of the curve on that is very important to us. So, yes, there will be automation, but no robots anytime soon, I would suggest.
Now, Guido, what do you think about that? Because you, when we did our brief, you were talking about personalisation and that being key. Now, in yesterday's session about transport, Emirates talked about going from personalisation to hyper-personalisation. And Christoph from Emirates, the way he described that was today we're trying to personalise experiences, but tomorrow we'll be anticipating them using big data, historical data, analysing that. How far have we come in the hotel industry in that respect?
I think I want to tap into what Oliver said. I think we've come a long way in terms of technology. Technology is an enabler. And for us in the hotel industry to be successful today and in the future, it's all going to be about personalization. And that's anticipation, right? You need to personalize the experience for the guest before he arrives, during his stay, and after he has left. That is going to be fundamental for the future. So in order to do that, you need to know your customer, you need to know your guests. And technology is there to enable us to gather data on our guests so that we can understand what their preferences are. And if we then in the hotel industry are able to deliver on those preferences consistently throughout the 6,500 hotels that we have, what our current customer is expecting, then I think we're in good shape. So, but for that we need technology. And we, as Oliver said, and I fully agree, it's a people's business. And we need to deliver on a promise that we are making to our guests every single day. We need to do that in all corners of the world. And as you know, the travel pattern is changing because we're talking about technology and we're talking about what is the future, but we need to look at where are our customers coming from. And that has changed dramatically as well. If you look at in one single generation, 3 billion people have now the means to travel. That is incredible. And where are these people coming from? And we know from where they're coming. They're coming from India, they're coming from China. So in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have 700 million trips from the Chinese traveler. We double the number of tourists from India that will travel abroad, and we need to be ready to welcome those guests in their own voice, in their own level of service, and to what they are expecting. And that means personalization.
So how are we going to get this data? Perhaps, Richard, you could, you're our resident tech man. How are we going to get all this data and to create these personalised experiences? I know the hotel guys will probably want to talk about loyalty. Look, but are there other ways?
I think I need to charge you for the answer, actually.
Oh, do it?
Yeah,
okay.
It's to deliver the full concept here.
How much?
All right, well, let's see. I'm quite a happy man, actually, because all the gentlemen said one very important thing, that technology is an enabler. Very often, when I speak to hoteliers, and also when I speak to airlines, but on the hotelier side, that the technology is seen as the solution. I'm buying this rack of software, I'm implementing it. Sometimes not that easy to implement it, it takes a while, it's very expensive. And then it does nothing. It just doesn't do anything. It's not doing what I've expected it to do. And there is quite a significant number of failed IT projects globally and in the hospitality world. So if hospitality is seen as an enabler, excellent step forward. Talking about the key trends, and it basically complements what the gentleman said. When we look at how we invest our money, it's a significant amount that Sabre invests every year into development. We obviously need to speak to our hoteliers first, because the worst thing that a technologist can do is just build something and then hope someone's going to buy it. Never happens. We've tried it, by the way. Never happens. So AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, top on the agenda. Now, what does it actually mean? Are there proper examples already out there? And I hope that during the session today we will be able to speak a little bit about that. The second one, guest experience. Great, you know, there was feedback from the gentleman already as well. The third one, very important, retailing. How do I get for the hotel consumer an Amazon-like experience? Do I want that? But in order to book my hotel room, in order to book everything around the hotel room, why don't we copy better from the Amazons and eBays of the world? Topic, retailing. Very, very high on our agenda. And then finally, I think I have to say that as a technologist in residence here, is blockchain. I hear it in every presentation. I hear it in every presentation, every customer request. And I think also here we need to see blockchain as an enabler. And if we get the chance today to speak a little bit more about that, it is not the final solution to everything, even though some consultants might say that. But again, you know, we're a little bit late in the industry on picking up on the possibilities of blockchain, which goes to a certain extent into retailing. Sorry, it's a long answer.
No, okay.
Not the solution to everything, but
well, we can come back to some of those points, yeah, for sure. We'll definitely come back to the gathering of the data as well. Tom, hi. Now, what trends are you seeing? What's really come to light over the past few years in terms of hotel design? And obviously we've been talking about personalisation and guest experience, guest satisfaction. Where does design merge into all of this?
Look, I think some of it is coming from almost a third market is starting to emerge. Our sort of work experience is blurred. You know, we spend more time travelling and working. Coffee shops have had it for like 20 years where we've gone and worked and communicated. But I think as it's changed with the amount of time that we're blurring is that we're seeing apps all around the world that I can go and book a hotel room by the minute or by the hour with no minimum. So that we're becoming almost like little micro centres in the lobby. So it's a personalised thing, but it's a third market. It's something we've done the lobby CAF. We've played with it, changing from day to night, but we're still not offering that total package. You know, that I can get a couple of hours sleep, I can do that whole thing and go off, opposed to, you know, so it's home, work, and perhaps this third market. That's probably the biggest trend that I see happening. And then, you know, we're seeing things break down all the time. What was a traditional concierge table, you know, the high counter we used to go up to, now we see as a beautiful communal space where I can get served a copy, I can buy my bag, you know, it's all interactive. So some of the conversations of moving the Amazon model, I agree with. But I still think that personalised service of being able to add on and sell it to you as you go out. You're going to the beach, beautiful bag, take it. You know, I think there's a lot of those missed opportunities that we see.
Guys, any what Tom's been saying, are you trying to introduce into, you know, your brands? Can you give us examples? And perhaps merging, you know, the technology and the service that you were talking about, Olivier.
Yes, absolutely. We've launched 3 projects at Emaar Hospitality, which are somehow linked because they relate to technology, but it's worthwhile looking at them separately. So the first project is about personalization, as we said, where technology can be an amazing enabler to help us customize a hotel to the history and the needs of a guest. So let me give you an example. There's a lot of data we have available about our guests' behavior in our hotels, whether it's a room temperature, whether it's the temperature they like to shower with, etc. All this data is either available or can be easily collected. And resetting a piece of equipment every time you check into a hotel room is a friction point, right? Mm. So those frequent travelers among us know these friction points, right? You come into a room, you set up your entertainment channel, you set up the temperature. If you use the safe, you have to reset the code. Sometimes it's the 4-digit, sometimes it's 6 digits, sometimes a credit card. Then you go to you take a shower, you like a specific temperature, but you don't know, is it handheld or rainforest, then you get your hairs wet, etc. So all this can be avoided with technology. You know, as an example, the shower supplier Grow has an intelligent shower, right?
Oh,
you press on the button
yeah.
and it comes out the way you want. Then you go to the gym, you like to run on the treadmill, you like a certain inclination, you like to watch CNN. Every time you have to reprogram. The machine can recognize you with Internet of Things and customize. So this is, all these friction points can be removed. Other friction points are waiting times, right? One of the biggest waiting times you experience in a hotel is waiting for the bill. Sit in a restaurant, you're done with your meal, you want to go back to your room, you're waiting for the waiter, ask for the bill, and then wait for the bill. If you had a running tab on your phone, you just press pay and you go, right? Yeah. So you avoid this waiting time.
I did that last week in London. Oaxaca restaurant, you can just do it online and go, walk out.
Exactly.
And we got a free beer.
Yeah. So,
it doesn't always work well.
So the first project is about customizing a hotel, its public spaces, and the rooms to what we know about our guests. The second project is about making services in a hotel ubiquitous. So no matter where you are in a hotel, you can call on any service you want. You don't have to go to a specific place, right? If you're at the pool and you want to book theater tickets, you want to ask an associate from the hotel to book theater tickets for you. Today, they will ask you to go to the concierge. Tomorrow, they will be equipped with a mobile device and be able to help you with that service, right? You're in your room, you want to check out. If the first person you see is the room attendant, today they cannot check you out. They will ask you to go to reception, right? So tomorrow, they will have, again, a mobile device and will be able to check you out if you decide to check out, of course, instead of just walking out and having a non-stop checkout. So the second project is about making sure that services can happen anywhere in the hotel, right? And that has huge implications because it has implications on how we build hotels, right? A reception desk becomes obsolete. And let's be honest to ourselves, no guest needs a reception desk. Reception desks are built for the convenience of the hotelier, not of the guest, because we need a collection point to do certain transactions. So
just interrupting there quickly, Tom, have you seen that happen in other industries where that barrier has been broken down?
They're getting smaller and smaller. Yeah. They're also getting self-check-in. They're changing the dynamics of it. The lobbies are becoming quite beautiful without them.
So just to finish that, so it has implications on how we build hotels, but also on how we recruit and train associates, because job roles will be much less specialized in the future than they are today. You're no longer a front desk agent or a concierge or a waiter or waitress. You do anything. You become a guest ambassador, helping the guest with everything they need. The third project is about decluttering hotels. Technology helps us take features, collateral, pieces of equipment out of hotels. We don't need remote controls anymore. We don't need guest room directories anymore. In many hotels, they have already disappeared. So It's about really making hotel environments more clutter-free, more guest-friendly, and more beautiful.
Fantastic, great. I'd really like to hear from Guido and John as well about what you guys are doing along similar lines. You know, where are we heading with the technology? And
Sure, let me start because
can we up the mic, please?
So can you hear me? Okay,
That's
cool.
better, thank you.
So look, a lot of what Olivier talks about, I think, is incredibly important, and we've led with room key access, right? So we now allow people to, if they are a member of our Hilton Honors program and they download our app, and 70 million people have, we can effectively allow you to check in online and then access your room directly. So exactly to
Is that
Olivier's
your digital key?
That's a digital key, which,
Yeah, with your
which
phone.
we're just launching in the Middle East. So we now have in the DoubleTree at the Business Bay. It'll be in our New Hampton that we're opening in the
And
summer.
are people using it, and is it working?
Yeah,
Do they
absolutely.
like it?
No, people love it. You get used to it because it's a new thing and people get used to it. But once they're using it and they're comfortable with it, they absolutely love it. And we've rolled that out across over 2,000 hotels already, and we're going to continue to do that. And it's a great example of where, exactly as Olivier says, nobody wants to check in, right? No one wants to stand in line. That's an administrative process. The guest just wants to get to their room, particularly if they arrive as they do in Dubai, as I did last night at 2 a.m. in the morning. The last thing you want to do is stand in line at a check-in desk. So that kind of technology allows you both to enter your room, but it also, again, to Olivier's point, allows you to build a profile on that app that we can then use anywhere in the world, ultimately, to preset your room exactly as you love it, right? So
very much along similar lines.
Very similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
One other thing I would talk about is just in terms of space design, because that's changing as well. So what we're seeing increasingly is a much bigger increase in social space and people wanting to spend time in social space and less time in their room. And so that's affecting the design. We've just launched a new brand in the US called True, and in True, the social space is twice the size of what you would normally see in a similar kind of hotel, because more and more people, and particularly younger people, want to spend time in a social space. They want to be, they want to be with others, but not actually necessarily interact.
How big are we talking?
Well, if you look at a kind of typical lobby in a focus service hotel in the US,
Twice the size.
It would be about twice the size.
And when's
of
that coming
yeah.
here?
Well, I think we'll take our time with that. I think we need to make sure that the market in the Middle East is ready for that kind of product. I think we're very excited about how the mid-market is going to grow in the US, and many of us have brands in that space that we want to grow. True actually sits below that space. And I think
do you see that as more of a mid-market concept then?
It sits at the bottom of the mid-market relative to our brands like Hampton and Gardner. Yeah.
And Tom, are these the kind of things you've been talking about with hotels? It seems that, you know, the technological advances and the design seem to kind of be going together in this aspect, you know, breaking down the barriers, technology allows that, then you can create these beautiful spaces. How do the two merge, and what do you see?
I think what the panel have said is absolutely on trend. I mean, by getting rid of receptions and bits and pieces, it's just freeing up F&B spaces. I mean, it's becoming more interactive, but equally the same thing is like the bars. They can be broken down too. We don't need to have this high bar. We can have a beautiful communal table with a barman walking around, making the drink, interacting with you. You don't need the static things that we all thought it was. And I think, you know, with the younger generation as well, they want to be in social spaces, but they also want their own space within there. So it's about how we break it up with visual privacy, with being seen, but feeling in your own space, and how it changes through day and night. But the technology is playing a major part on how it takes away certain things that we used to have. We used to have big waiter stations with big clunky tools. You don't need it any longer. You know, we had all this printed collateral. Give the guy an iPad and he's got the wine list. I mean, you know, it's freeing it up.
I was shocked when he started saying, you know, we're going to get rid of the bar. You're not going to get rid of the bar, right?
No. I'm a very, very strong supporter of the bar.
We've got to draw the line somewhere.
Let me probably, as a non-hoteler, give you, but as a traveler, you know, with 180 nights a year, give you two views on that. View number one is a Hilton view, actually. We have our headquarters in Dallas in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously 60, 70, 80 visitors from around the globe are in the office every day. Now next door there is a Hilton, and guess what we do in the evenings? Yes, we're at the bar, but we're at a co-working space. And really we continue working across business units, and we're solving problems that we probably cannot solve in the office. It's really amazing. Yeah,
Now,
absolutely
a lot of
amazing.
This is all happening in the US. Now, Guido, are you seeing this? And is it, obviously a lot of you are headquartered in the US, so this is where it all happens. What are you doing in terms of, what the other guys have been talking about?
It's interesting listening, and it's not different in the world of Marriott International, to be quite frank. As you all know, we have brands that have stood the test of time.
Yes,
brands like Sheraton that have been around since 1937. And we're in the process of transforming that entire brand.
Is that hard to do? Because they are so established.
Well, they're well established here in the Middle East, as we all know. We've been here since 1966. But one of the first things that we are looking at in the transformation of that brand is not necessarily the room, but it is the public space. It is the lobby, right? What we call the lobby and the lounge, etc. And we looked at a few of our hotels, and the first thing that you see when you're walking in is the reception desks that take massive amount of space. So it's been mentioned before. I'm going to repeat it because it's relevant, because it addresses all the points. And we need to rethink that, because indeed, people checking in don't need those large checking in spaces anymore. But what they do need is a place that is fun. A lobby needs to be a gathering place that brings together not just the hotel guests, but also the people that are living in the community. Because we've forgotten that actually hotels, the Middle East is a bit different, but if you look at Europe, our hotels are not necessarily the community gathering places.
No.
They are catering for hotel guests, for people that are coming to the city. So we're looking at creating that space, that lobby space that we have available, and make it much more interactive. Working, yes, everybody keeps on working, and the younger generation is no longer talking about Gen X or Gen Y or Gen Z. It's no longer about when I work or your work, or it's no longer about your time or downtime or workout or work time. It's a blur, and people they mix their leisure time and their working time, and they work at any time of the day. And the hotels need to be that attractive place that keeps people busy and keeps people going. So a lobby is an ideal place to get that established. And it will be a combination of food and beverage. We haven't talked about food and beverage yet because there are massive changes there as well. But it is a mix of food and beverage, obviously, and a lobby ambassador or an ambassador that is there to cater for all needs of your guests.
So it seems like you're all very much on the same wavelength.
When you then come to the rooms, Oliver used the word Internet of Things. We have an Internet of Things lab that we started up in the company about 5-6 months ago, and it's really piloting, testing. We created an alliance with Samsung and Legrand, and we're looking at what does this customer of the future need in terms of technology. And that may be you walking into the room and talking to a virtual host and say, I want my wake-up call at 6:30. You're not going to have to call anyone. You're not going to have to inform reception. You can just address someone through technology in the room.
And when will that happen? How far ahead will that be?
I've seen it in pilot in our head office in Bethesda. So it is coming. It is coming, and it's not far away that you sit in your room and say, I need my pickup service tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And you're talking literally to a virtual host in your room. So those things are coming as we speak.
How do we all feel about a virtual host in your room? Do we like that idea? Hands up who wants a virtual host in their room. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Who's not sure? Only a couple, that's good. So it's good, this is a good thing.
You can turn the virtual host off if you don't want them listening
to
this.
This is what I'm thinking, it might kind of be a bit weird if I've got this virtual host, Sounds good.
Very much on demand.
Look, in the end of the day, we're in the business of creating efficiency for our guests, right? And it's not just, of course, it's always about delivering a good night's sleep. That will always be the core of our business. But on top of them, it's about making our guests perform better in their day-to-day life. That's what our duty is. And technology, design, all of that helps.
I think in many things, for a long time, we will have to keep both options: the technology option,
the choice,
and the old way or the traditional way of doing things. And it's really interesting. It's fascinating because it helps to differentiate between a transaction and a service, right? Technology can take over transaction, which is mechanical, but people do service. But the fascinating thing is that depending on the travel purpose, it can be the same traveler, the same activity can be for one travel purpose a transaction, and for the next travel trip a service. So a great example is the check-in process, right? A woman arriving in a hotel on a Tuesday night after a long flight at 11 at night wants to get into her room as soon as possible. The check-in is a transaction. That same person who comes on a Friday here, beginning of the weekend, on a staycation with her family, and will check in, then the check-in becomes part of the experience and the service.
Yeah.
And this is done by humans.
Yeah, exactly.
I think as hoteliers, we need to think out of the box. And one way of doing that is working with or partnering with startups, people that are not necessarily in our industry, but that are maybe that will help us to get to that room of the future or that stay of the future. So we launched an initiative called TestBed in Marriott hotels. And what does that do? We are inviting startups to look at our hospitality offering, to look at our rooms, and to come up with ideas on how we can enhance that guest room experience. And then if there is something that we believe really has merit and really has legs to go, then we will have a proof of concept. We invite it and we pilot it and we test it. So, because we hoteliers, we are sometimes very busy with ourselves, and I think it's very important. It's very important to get that voice from the outside and different perspective into our day-to-day operation.
Now, interesting, taking that point that you just said, find something that is Marriott, what I was going to touch on, and Richard, I am going to ask you about AI and all those things and the Amazon stuff in a minute, because that's really important. But just quickly first, I want to talk about brand differentiation. We're all saying, right, let's get rid of the reception desk, let's get rid of all these barriers. But we don't want to have every single hotel where we walk in and it's the same kind of space. So, Tom, how are we going to make that happen? How are we going to integrate this new design ethic but still have brand differentiation? Still know it's a Marriott, still know it's a Hilton, still know it's an address property or a Rove. How do we do that?
Look, I think that in all of the properties, there are fundamental basics that underline what the hotel is about. You know, whether it's the tradition, the history it stands for, whether they're particularly conscious on sustainability or political views, because I'm seeing a lot of that happen. I don't think it's that hard. It's the same as what happens now. You walk into a lot of hotels and they're completely different. It really comes down to the brief. It comes down to the positioning of where it is, whether it's a business hotel or a leisure hotel, the offerings inside. So, and again, there's not one designer doing it. There's a number of designers around the world, just the same as there are a number of hoteliers. So it's everybody's eyes looking through it. So I don't think it's a major thing to come through.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Let me say one thing. I think one of the really big challenges for the industry, certainly for our industry, is to move our thinking around how we innovate, right? Because historically, I think we have been very wired into asking customers what they want and delivering what they want. And actually, if you look at the most innovative companies in the world, innovation doesn't come from asking customers what they want. You know, very famous quote from Henry Ford: if I asked them what they want, they'd have said faster horses, right? The reality is that the only way you really innovate is to deeply understand the customer journey, the customer experience, and then build a creative process out of that gets ahead of what the customer wants.
Sure,
And I don't think as an industry we've been terribly good at that. I mean, we've been around 100 years. We've done a lot of innovative things as a company, but a lot of it is responding to customer need. And I think we need to move beyond that into really anticipating ahead of actually those customer needs being anticipated. The other thing I'll say very quickly is I believe there's a real need to differentiate on property, absolutely, and each individual brand needs to create its own experience. But also, for us, what we call above property innovation is really important too. And so things like everything we were talking about earlier, right? Having your data, your profile uploaded so that we can leverage that information right around the world, wherever you go to is a differentiator for Hilton, and then we would curate that for each of our brands.
Sure.
So it's both above and on property, and if we want to be really innovative, we need to think think ahead of what the customer's asking for today.
I think
Now, Richard, I haven't forgotten you. Now, what you were saying, John, about looking outside of the industry into other industries, particularly maybe the retail sector. I know that, Richard, you were going to talk about that. What can we learn from other industries that the hotel sector can leverage and improve upon?
I think it's two things that I want to say there. The number one, or the first thing is, it's amazing to hear as a business traveler from all the gentlemen what's done in labs, you know, how you want to understand the customer better in order to build the right room. Sometimes, again, as a business traveler, I just wish that, you know, there is a plug that I don't have to crawl under a bed or don't have to crawl under, you know, a desk and I'm full of dust. And who has experienced that as well? Is it just me? Yeah, it's all of us. It's all of us. So now, let's fix that first and then we'll take on the rest. No, just kidding. But on the AI side, so it's a little bit of the concept that we're discussing here. What is service? What is transaction? What is a robot? What is a human? And AI will help us being better business people. So to give you an example, because it's always very artificial when you talk about it, distributing hotel rooms is quite a complicated thing. You have your corporate customers, you have your leisure customers, you have tour operators, you have OTAs, you have OTAs that you like, you have OTAs that you don't like, you have your call center, you've got a booking engine, it's all of that, and it's very complicated. And you have your CRS, and suddenly a rate disappears. The rate is not loaded anymore, you're surprised why IBM or Coca-Cola doesn't come to your property anymore. And it's simply because the rate is not loaded against that special account. These things happen on a day-to-day basis. Unfortunately, they do happen. Give you an idea about what AI can do. We have a solution in place in our labs that goes every night through all of your rates, all of your availabilities, checks all of your contracts. The moment we identify something that is written in the contract, for instance, I have unlimited guarantee for room availability, but I've blocked that customer out, we're fixing it automatically. The customer is not even starting complaining about it. We see it, we fix it. A rate is not loaded anymore. A rate is wrong. A rate should always be minus 10% to bar. But it's not because it was loaded wrongly. We fix it automatically.
It's like a magic genie.
It is magic. It is magic. But I have to say, I saw it. It's dangerous as well. Because sometimes you don't want IBM in your property anymore. Or you don't want Coca-Cola or McKinsey anymore. And you might have made that decision, and the machine just decides, Richard is stupid. Let's open it up again. Yeah. So it's a little bit on the dangerous side as well. To find to find the right human-machine mix is critical and crucial for the industry. But this is just one AI application that works today, and these things will rule our work. Our easy processes will be taken over by these machines, and it will help us doing better revenues and healthier revenues going forward.
And when you referred earlier to Amazon-like experiences, could you tell us a bit more about that and how it applies to the hospitality industry?
Absolutely, sure. Why do I buy from Amazon? I find everything in one place. I just have to do 3 clicks. I get it sent home. Easy. If I want to go on a family vacation, 2 kids, my wife, okay, it's a little bit of an emotional decision process as well. But I look at 8 hotels, 10 hotels, 12 hotels. It takes forever. I don't make it easy. Once I've decided for it, I still have to call. I want to have a fence for the swimming pool. I want to have a special villa. My wife is vegan. I'm vegetarian. Whatever it is, I just can't do it in one process. Thinking back of Amazon and what eBay does, they do it in one process. The payment, the inspiration, the buying process, the knowledge about you and what you want to buy, the emails you get every day from Amazon on, are you interested in this? And I'm always like, yeah, how do they know? Yeah?
Yeah.
We're nowhere close. We're nowhere close. And again, technology is an enabler, it's not the solution. But companies like ours need to enable the hoteliers in order to do these things.
So how do we make that happen in the hotel industry?
I think
Which hotel group is going to be first?
I think the question, last week there was a question asked to us, are you becoming the Amazon of the hospitality industry? And the reason that was asked was because, as you know, last week we announced that we're going to unify the 3 loyalty programs that we had, SPG from Starwood, Marriott Rewards, and Ritz-Carlton Rewards, which gives you a platform of 110 million loyalty members. And so the reason that was asked was that we were at the same time launching Moments Marketplace. And SPG had a program called Moments, where we were introducing to our members the opportunity for once-in-a-lifetime experiences, such as, give an example, the Formula One in Abu Dhabi, a one-on-one with Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
These are special moments in your life. So we have about 8,000 of those moments available as we speak. That will grow by the day, because our customers are looking, when they go and when they travel, they not just want to stay in a good hotel, but they also want to experience something that stands for their destination, something that they normally don't do. So as a hotel, I think we are in the experience industry, and we need to offer not just a good night's sleep or an experience in the hotel, but also let our guests experience what is there to do in the destination. So I think that's one thing that is really high on the agenda.
Yeah, because we've seen other hotel groups start to kind of purchase businesses that are within the travel industry, haven't we? Rather than just become hotel providers, become experience and lifestyle providers.
Right.
Does the panel think we'll see more of that going forward, or should we just stick to what we know?
Just before I hand over, but that was what Marriott did some time ago by buying a stake in PlacePass.
Yes.
And PlacePass is exactly offering experiences. So we bought a stake in that company just to be able to do that and to offer more to our guests. So.
And will we see other groups do that? I mean, what do you guys think about it?
So, well, I can speak for Hilton. I think to some extent, if you're a really large hotel company, there is a choice ahead of you a little bit around whether you want to be a platform where you're kind of technology enabled, selling a vast majority of things, or whether you want to be a pure hospitality company that specializes in creating unique, differentiated, branded experiences. We're very much the latter. So our focus is on hospitality, our focus is on having a sensible, but only a sensible number of brands, of growing our own brands internally, and making those brands more and more innovative, more and more differentiated, more and more value to the customer. So that's where our primary strategy lies, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Okay, Olivier.
In my view, both strategies. We will see both strategies. On one hand, the companies that widen their scope of capabilities, go further, deeper into the guest experience, start earlier, etc. There are some hotel groups that do that. But then there are other hotel groups that focus on their core business, and I think we also see a disintegration of the hotel business. So, years ago, we saw a separation of asset management from hotel business, right?
Yes,
when hotel companies became asset light, because they realized managing real estate is different from managing hotels.
Yeah.
Today, we see a similar trend. I mean, it's not fully completed, but we see a tendency towards separating branding on one hand, hotel operations, and distribution, right? We see that these are becoming 3 separate areas of business, and we see companies that are specializing on that, right? Today you have hotel companies that manage hotels. They're very successful. They don't have a brand, right? They're not called Hilton, they're called Interstate or whatever. And we see OTAs focusing on distribution, right? So I think we will see both strategies. Which one will be better?
Yeah. So on one hand, you've got companies that are adding on these other services, but others that are deconstructing as well and outsourcing, I guess, too.
I think that's true, but the other thing that you need to remember is that for an organisation like ours, and most of the big globals are the same, building that direct customer interaction is incredibly important to us, right? So the idea that we will allow ourselves to be commoditized behind a distribution engine is not something that we feel, as you could imagine, very excited about, and we're very clear that we want to own a direct relationship with the customer. We're very happy to work with third parties, and we'll continue to do so, but it's really important to us to have a direct relationship with the customer. And then, to some extent, we will sell on ancillary services. We have a great partnership with Uber. We work with Uber Eats to develop food into the rooms in certain markets in the US, just as an example. We have a great collaboration with Amazon Locker, where we're rolling out Amazon Lockers. So we work with third parties to provide some solutions, but our primary business is in having really great relationships with guests and then having a direct relationship with them and creating a great experience for them. And as I say, I think certainly, for the foreseeable future, I think that's a great strategy for us.
Great, thank you.
At the end of the day, the business we're in, we want to own the guest, right? So that's what we want to do.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I think that's what we're all striving for. And that's all by
that's the end result.
That's the end result.
Yeah. Richard talked about looking outside of the industry to examples like Amazon. Tom, what examples can we look outside of the industry in terms of design that you think perhaps the hotel kind of sector could be looking at?
Look, we're seeing it, mock-up rooms. Mock-up rooms are being made digitally, a 3D mock-up. I can view it anywhere around the world. I can go in and I can change a nightstand. I can work it. That's a huge thing, especially for large organisations, because we can get the entire team. We don't have to fly around the world to see it. We can trial it. We can market it. That's one of the biggest things that really is impacting our side, from an outside point of view, rather than an app or something that is.
Yeah, sure.
So just to build on that, we have an innovation gallery, an innovation centre now in McLean in Virginia, where we're headquartered, where we do a lot of mock-up space through virtual reality. So our new brands, we would build a virtual reality model for that brand, and then we would take owners through it. And exactly as you say, if we want to change the colour scheme or we want to add a piece of furniture into the room, we can do that at very low cost. And it also just allows us to experiment with customers more fluidly as well, which is really cool. So I think VR and also augmented reality is getting a lot bigger as well, where you can. So augmented reality is like Pokemon, if anyone remembers that, where you can combine the real world with implanting something. So we're using that for training, where we'll have an app where you can look through your own phone at a space, and we'll show you exactly how to set that space up for breakfast, for example. So what is the kind of brand recommended setup? So virtual reality, augmented reality, I think is going to get bigger and bigger as well.
Right. Well, I think at this point we've got only 10 minutes left, so I'd like to open the floor up to questions. If you'd like to put your hands up, we have questions for our panel. Please introduce yourself and state your question clearly, please, and who your question is for as well. Thank you.
My name is Nader Bastaki. I'm from Dubai Tourism. My question is slightly broad-based, and it's got two parts to it. It's the thin line between removing the friction points in the hospitality sector and the thin line with breaching privacy, which is core to us and who we are as people. That's one question I want to see, because a lot of the pointers out there were making things easier for the customer, but how far is too far? And then the other question is, how are we being compensated for our data, basically, as a currency? So you're using this for your own benefit. What are we getting back as customers as well? Do we have the option to sell this to you, or or can we just say no?
Thank you. Two really good questions. Who would like to answer them? First of all, the thin line between the friction points being removed and giving guests privacy. How far is too far?
We are very conscious about the necessity to keep the privacy of our guests, right? And that the data needs to stay secure. So that is, in everything that we do, the starting point. And when we say we want to deliver on the preferences of our guests, that means once we get the preferences of our guests, that we have buy-in, that we have the consent of our guests, that we can use that data. And number two, that it stays relevant. But it is one thing, 100% on the agenda of at least my company that I work for, that the data is protected and cannot be used without the consent of our guests.
But would you pay the guests for that data, as suggested? The guest is saying, this is my valuable data, this is information about me that you can use.
We do that already today. It's a great question because we do it today.
Oh, do you? How?
With most hotel companies, when you book direct, you have certain advantages which you don't have
a discount,
when a discount or the ability to choose your room. free internet, right? I mean, the industry has been quite creative in attracting guests to book direct, basically collecting their data in addition to saving on commissions, and rewarding them for that. So it's already happening. But it can go further, fully agree, because data becomes a currency.
I mean, I would say, and I think customers will get increasingly selective about who they share and what they share with all
Especially
companies,
after Facebook,
right? And the only way long term you're going to be successful in persuading customers to part with their data is if you're giving them value back. So I don't think direct payment is necessarily the best model for that, but we would certainly want to make sure that if you're giving us information, then you're getting something of value back for that, as kind of Olivier was alluding to. So that's going to be the only way you're going to get information off customers longer term anyway.
Just to come back to the first part of the question, because it was really a great question. So from our perspective, there are two dimensions to that. One is the preference of each guest. So each guest can opt out of whatever they want in terms of data. The other tricky thing is the regulatory framework of countries. It's very different, right? There are some countries, like Russia, for example, which require the data of Russian citizens that is collected to be kept also in the country, right? So for global operators, it is quite a challenge to manage around this this requirement.
And how close are we to data sharing? Before this session, we talked about data sharing between partners, not just within closed hotel groups, but hotels, airlines, border control, for example. Richard, from a tech perspective, talking about big data, historical data, how can this happen? Can this happen in the future? And are we anywhere near it?
It's not a technology question. It's very easy. It's costly, but it's very easy. It's about the willingness of people to do it and to want it. That's it. It's a huge project, like what you've just described, but technically, absolutely easy to do.
And then analysing that data. I guess if you have
analysing
the
the data,
technology,
slicing, dicing, using the data, GDPR, all these things come up, all these lovely things that we have to take care of, data protection in general, by country, as Olivier said. But to just make it happen, absolutely.
Yeah. And Tom, the question about the line between removing barriers in spaces and then creating privacy, you touched upon that, about saying how people still really valued their privacy. Are there examples that you can give us of how, we can remove those barriers but still give guests their space? And
I think we're seeing it in the way we create lobby designs. The level of furniture changing, difference of levels, screening, planting, all the general tools that we use throughout the space creates a little sanctuary for people to be sitting in. You're still part of it. We're looking at the moment turning a lot of the spaces, rather than having corridors, we're looking at a lot more view lines, so we feel very much like we're in a street. So people are walking through the space, it's very interactive. But people are shielded. They've either got a high back so they don't feel that they're exposed. Yeah. So there's a lot of layering that's happening. It's changing dramatically.
I think it's really interesting that people, the advent of mobile phones has meant that people feel much more comfortable being alone in a space on their own, right?
Yeah.
So historically, if you went into a restaurant on your own and took a book, you felt a bit awkward. If you sat there staring at the wall, you'd feel a bit awkward. Now you sit, and we all do it, right? Yeah. You sit and stare at your phone and everyone feels comfortable. And actually, that's actually transformed how people use social space. And I think, to exactly your point, our focus is on having people feel, if they want to be, they can be alone but not lonely.
Sure.
Right? And being in a social space with other people around, but actually having your own space is a real sweet spot for a lot of travellers today, because they feel very comfortable sitting in their own space, interacting with, the outside world through their phone or their iPad.
Do we have any more questions? Gentleman here. Okay, well, we've got time for a couple, so we'll go to the lady in the front, then we'll come to you, sir. Promise.
Linda Biko, Amistad Partners. How do you think NDC will change the way we distribute our inventory from a hotel perspective?
NDC.
Was it NDC? Okay, I guess that's for me. Yay.
That's for you.
I'm glad it is.
Everyone else was like,
No, gentlemen, I want to hear you on NDC. So very easy answer. So far, NDC has not touched the hotel world and the hotel distribution world. And when we look from an airline perspective onto NDC, it enables us to retail airlines better, roughly on a global standard, without going into way too many details. The hospitality side, or even the car rental side or insurance side, will continue to be add-ons as we have them today, which does not mean that we will go down those standards as well on the hospitality side. Now, traditionally, the ways of distribution between an airline seat and a hotel seat are very different. The way how much is sold through GDS on hotel side, car, and airline is very different. So there is no urgent need for an NDC-like approach. A couple of standards would sometimes be nice for an IT company like ours, but so far from an NDC perspective, no.
might it happen?
What's that?
Do you think it can happen?
Yeah, it can happen, probably in a different view. I mean, NDC, how long are we talking about it? 6 years? 5, 8? Forgot it. And then finally the document came out and it was like this and it was scary. Yeah, you know, a couple of standards are sometimes good. It just makes it a lot easier. When we look at the hotel world, we have to connect many systems that are actually not made to speak to each other, CRS, CRM, PMS, whatever it is. A couple of standards would sometimes help.
Great, thank you. One more question, the gentleman here, please. Thank you.
Emile Josie, HCI. We talked about the guest, but in my culture and my education, there were 3 staff to every guest. None of you mentioned anything about how the new technology is affecting the 3 staff for luxury hotels. And the second question is, are you interested in having itemized budgets to give to the owner before the construction starts, so no surprises happen at the end in total cost?
I think we'll only take the first question because the second is kind of not relevant to this discussion. So can you just repeat the first question again? You'd like to know about how they're going to use technology to...
We heard a lot about the guest experience.
Yes.
For every guest, there are 3 staff.
Right.
For a luxury hotel.
Right, okay, I get it, yeah.
So what experiences are the staff getting?
Okay. So it's really what the role of staff within hospitality will be in the future. Will they be replaced by technology, or... You're talking 3 staff per guest on average at the moment. How will that evolve in the future? Anyone?
I guess any of the 3 of us would be very happy to take this, but we've kind of covered it a little bit in the sense that what we want to do is eliminate transactional work and replace it with more hospitality. It's not about reducing staff. And I genuinely believe that the advent of AI will make everything better for everybody, including the staff that work in our hotels. And what we'll be able to do is focus their energy and their creative talent and their passion on providing great service.
Yeah.
So that's certainly our point.
I want to underline that because technology, whilst being an enabler and not replacing people, it will actually elevate jobs because roles in hotels will become problem-solving roles, empathy roles, right? Taking care of the customer, and all this mechanical, repetitive work will be taken over by technology. And as John said, everybody will benefit from that. Yeah. And on the 3-to-1 ratio, I haven't seen that in a long time, even here in the Middle East.
Sounds good. Okay, guys, that's probably all we've got time for. So before we finish up, I'd just like to ask the panel, looking ahead to the next 25 years, because this year's ATM theme is 25 years. It's 25 years since the first edition. So looking ahead to the next 25 years, what do you all believe will be the biggest driver of change in the hotel industry? Just in one sentence, if you can. Tom?
Oh, give us a second. I don't know if I'll be around in 25 years.
Do you want to start this end?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Olivia, what will be the biggest change?
Okay, I thought I had time to prepare.
No, Tom's passed the buck. It's back to you.
Let me give you a slightly different twist to the answer. In my view, the hotel industry will have to gain back its edge that it has decades ago. Because if we are honest to ourselves, we are quite a conservative industry, right? Because all the technology we spoke about today is not state of the art. Internet of Things has been around for a long time. You know, it's state of the art for the hotel industry to have a hotel and a room, etc., adapt itself to the needs of a guest. But this technology has been around a long time, but we have failed to implement it. So the hotel business will have to regain its edge. And just to finish up, because it's really interesting how we as an industry deal with change. You know, it goes in a four-stage process. We saw it with OTAs, we saw it with Airbnb. When something new happens, we first ignore it. Simply ignore it. It doesn't exist. Then the second stage is we convince ourselves that it has no impact. So we acknowledge it, but we say it has no impact. Then we start lobbying, fighting against it. And only at the end do we start embracing it. So we will have to start this embracing process. We'll have to bring it to the front.
Cut out all the rest, Okay, John.
So, I mean, I'll go to what I said earlier a little bit. You know, I think this is about understanding customers in more detail. And we probably don't know what the single biggest change will be in 25 years. What I would say, though, is that I believe artificial intelligence will transform everyday life and be transformational in the hotel business. And we talked a little bit about it, but just to bring it to life just one more time, just imagine you had a partner, effectively an AI partner, that was planning every trip that you made, had a really deep understanding of your preferences, what you like, what you didn't like, and effectively worked as a customized PA for you, booking all your travel, handling all your travel, managing it end to end. That's just one example. You could take any number of examples in our industry, and I think AI will transform it over time.
Great. Richard?
In 25 years, we will have the choice, finally. The choice of having a completely digitalized hotel room, to have a robot checking me in, to have a person checking me in, and to make the choice, it's going to be very easy in the booking process. We'll just have a flawless travel experience.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I know.
Guido?
I worked for a CEO at Starwood who said we live in the age of great change. I think we're moving into the age of unbelievable change. And I think what will happen in 25 years, I can probably follow what's been said before, but I think we need to be ready for change and be a bit more proactive in our industry.
Great. Tom, have you thought?
I still don't really have a good one, but you'll still be able to sleep in a hotel. You'll still be able to eat in a hotel.
Fantastic. Guys, please give our gentlemen a round of applause. They've been fantastic. Thank you. And I'm sure if you'd like to grab them outside and ask them any questions, they'd be more than happy to do so. But thank you all for attending, and we'll see you again soon.